Hello.
Hey, hello.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome you to Dallas and thank you very much for doing the show. As you know, I'm a longtime fan. We've known each other for a long time, and it is a great honor to be working with you. And I want to thank you. It was well worth the trip to Tokyo to have lunch with you and invite you. And so this is a great honor, and you know, I've learned so much from you and your work, so I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to have this conversation. You know, in putting together this exhibition, there are many raw elements. It's a very tactile exhibition. Many works on wood, on cardboard. Can you tell us a bit about the selection process for this exhibition?
今この時期にロサンゼルスのカウンティミュージアムで大きな回顧展が開かれてて、でそこにペインティングの主要な作品が出てるので、まずはそのペインティングじゃないものでみんなに見せていないもの、今まで見せてこなかったものを見せる展覧会をしようって思ったんですよね。
Currently, there is a large retrospective of my work happening at LACMA. And so a lot of major painting pieces are actually in that show. So I wanted to focus on works that are non-paintings, non-canvas paintings, and works that were not seen before, that I haven't shared before with the public.
でその中の一番最たるものが、カードボードに描いた、大きめのドローイングって言っていいのかペインティングか分かんないけど、カードボードに描いた大きな作品と、あとはパネルを自分で作って描いたそのパネル上の作品を自分はビルボードペインティングって呼んでたんだけど、そのシリーズっていうのはまとめて見せたことがなかったので、基本的に段ボールの作品と、そのビルボード的なパネルに描いたもので構成するっていうのをまず考えたんですよ。
And out of non-painting works, the thing that I have the most is the cardboard works. And these are large-scale cardboard works. Don't know if we can call them drawings or paintings. They're kind of both. And also paintings that I've done on panels that I've put together that I call the billboard series, billboard paintings. So actually the billboard paintings haven't been collected and shown en masse together before. So I wanted to focus, when I was putting together this exhibition, I wanted to focus on the billboard paintings and the cardboard works.
それとあとはそのカードボードに描いたブラック&ホワイト、黒いラインでこう描いた、大きめのカードボード作品に合わせてっていうか、後でそれが関係あるって気づいたんだけど、真っ白い白い新しい立体作品、頭を作ったやつなんだけど、それを2点新しく制作してここに加えることにしました。
And the cardboard works have a lot of black and white elements. There's a lot of black line work. And to match that, well, actually, I noticed that it matched after the fact, but the new white sculptural pieces, they're large head sculptures, that actually resonates together with the black and white line work on the cardboard drawings.
Arigato. And thank you for bringing this wonderful series of works that haven't been shown before. You know, the scale is fantastic. You famously confront the canvas by painting all night, listening to music. And you talk about how the image emerges. How does that contrast when painting on wood or on cardboard?
基本的には全く変わらないんだけど、ペインティングの場合は、下書きすることなく、つまりスケッチとかすることなく、いつも直接描いていく。で直接描いていく中で、書き直す、こうじゃないそうじゃないって言って何度もこう消したり書いたり消したり書いたりするんですけど、カードボードやこういう使い古したようなパネルに書いたものっていうのはほとんど一発で決まるっていうか、あまり悩むこともなく、もうすぐイメージが浮かんでそのままそれを定着させるっていう感じで作っていきます。それは多分、新品じゃないから キャンバスは最初真っ白なキャンバスで、それがどうも自分は苦手で、だからどちらかというと自分が自然に出てる、自分っていうものが自然に出てるのはこのようなカードボードとか汚れたパネルに書いたようなものだと思ってるから、こっちの方が本当の自分に近いもんですね。
Fundamentally, it's not that different, but I would say with the paintings, the canvas paintings, I don't do any sketches, I don't do any underdrawings. I work directly on the surface of the canvas and go through many versions where I go through a process where I'll paint and erase it and paint over it again and again. But with the cardboard and panel paintings, it's usually is just one shot done in one go. And I don't get caught up and rework it over and over. The image establishes itself quite quickly. And I think it's because the material is not new. A canvas is pure white, perfectly white, and actually it's a little challenging for me. And something like cardboard and panels, these are old, dirty materials that have been used, and that's much more natural to me.
なんか着るものでもそうなんだけど、新しく買ったお気に入りの服とか、ジーンズでも、シューズでもいいけど、新しい時って汚れるのをすごい気にして歩いたり着たりするんだけど、一旦雨の日に外に出て汚れちゃったらもうどうでもよくなってすごい自由になれる。なんかそういう感覚がね、大人になってもずっとつきまとってるんだよね。
It's kind of like with brand new clothing. You know, you have your brand new pair of shoes, your brand new jeans, and you're worried about them getting dirty when you're wearing them and you can't relax. But once you go out once on a muddy, rainy day, you feel so free and you're liberated and you feel really comfortable. And I think even as an adult, that sensibility stays with me.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is the 10-year anniversary of the tragedy in Fukushima. Can you talk about how the aftermath of Fukushima led to the large bronze sculptures? And why did you want to go back to the university to work among the students?
まず震災が起こる前に大学に行くっていうそのレジデンスプログラムは決まっていたんですよ。で、それが決まっていたから、震災の後に行くことになったんだけど。
Well, firstly, the residence at the university was already determined, was already decided before the earthquake happened. So it just happened that the timing was that I went after it happened.
で震災の後多くの日本の人やもしかしたら海外の人もそうかもしれないけど、何か例えば津波の映像とかを見てでたくさんの人が亡くなってそういうことを知っていくにつけちょっと心が暗くなったり、すごい虚無感に襲われてたと思うんですよね。自分もそうでした。
And with the earthquake, I think this happened to all Japanese people and also possibly with other foreign people as well. But seeing what happened, seeing the footage of the tsunamis, we were all just stricken with a sense of loss and emptiness, and our hearts were really darkened by what we saw.
で自分はそれで芸術っていうか、美術ですね。美術がどれくらい震災の復興、震災で心が傷ついた人たちに力を与えることができるか、なんかできないんじゃないか。ずっと、なんかもう今まで自由に絵を描いてきたり物を作ってきた自分っていうのがすごく幸せな世界に生きてて、災害を目にしてほとんど自分が無力だな、自分はもうちっぽけだなっていう、そういう考えに襲われちゃったんだよね、自分もね。
In all of this tragedy, I started thinking about how can art help to rebuild communities? How can it lift the spirits of people who are suffering from great tragedy? And faced with this question, I really felt very small. I realized how small and powerless I really am. And the life I had been leading, where I've been very free to create and paint, that I had just led such a blissful existence up until this point. And the enormity of the tragedy made me realize how small and powerless I felt.
それで それでも前向きに何かできることはないかって思ったのが、普通にボランティアに行くことで、それでボランティアとかに行き出しました。
In all of this, I try to move things forward, be forward thinking. So what I came up with, what I could do is to go volunteer. This is just regular volunteering to help out.
で僕が今住んでるとこは東京から、北へ、200キロくらい上で北で福島の原子力発電所からちょうど100キロ離れたところが僕の今住んでいるスタジオがあるところなんですよ。
Where I currently live is about 200 kilometers north of Tokyo, and it's about 100 kilometers from the Fukushima nuclear plant.
で、僕の生まれ育ったホームタウンは本州メインアイランドの一番北にある青森っていうところで、だからいつも自分の家に実家に帰るときは今住んでるところからその東北エリア、災害にあった東北エリアをすべて通って実家に帰っていた。その道がすべて、災害にあったので、本当に自分はもう心が空っぽになってたんだけど、でボランティアから始めました。
And where I was born and raised, my hometown is at the northernmost tip of the Honshu Island in Japan, in a prefecture called Aomori. And so for me to go home from where I live now to my hometown, I passed through all of the Tohoku region. Went through all of the affected disaster areas, and that road there is just paved with all of the tragedy. And going through this, I really felt my heart was completely gutted. But I just started with volunteering.
でその中で僕が見たのは、自分の身内家族が、亡くなられたり、もう自分の家をなくした人たちがそれでも泥を片付けて瓦礫を片付けて、とにかく前へ進もうっていうそういう、なんか重機トラックなんだっけ、ブルドーザーとかそういう重機もない中で本当に手作業で、瓦礫を片付け泥をかき出す、そうやって前向きに、進もうっていう現地の人たちの姿を各災害地で見ました。
And in that volunteering activity, what I saw were people who had lost their family, people who had lost their homes completely. They were just trying to clean up after the disaster. And there's no bulldozers, there's no machinery to help out. They're literally using their hands to move mud and broken pieces and clear out the wreckage of their homes. And that's what I saw throughout the affected areas.
それが春ですね。3月から4月、5月くらいまでそのようなものを見てきました。そして夏から自分の卒業した大学にレジデンスで行くことが決まっていたんですけど、とりあえず行くだけ行ってみようって、何ができるか分かんないけど行くだけ行ってみようっていう気持ちはもうできていましたね。
So this happened in March, and then through April through to May, this is what I saw as we continued volunteering. And then the summer came, and that's when I was supposed to go back to my alma mater university to do this residence. And at the time I thought, I don't know if I can do anything at all, but let's just go, see what happens, see what's possible.
で本当は絵画部門に呼ばれていたので、多分そのレジデンスプログラムで僕は絵を描くことを求められてたと思うんですけど、もう絵画のそのレジデンススタジオの方には行かなくて、彫刻のレジデンススタジオに行ったんですよ。でそれはもう本能的に真っ白なキャンバスに絵は描けないって思ったんですよね。
And it was originally the painting department that had arranged for me to come for this residence, so I think they had expected that I would work on paintings. But when I arrived, I didn't go there. I just went to the studio, the sculpture studio, and went to do the residence there. And I instinctually felt that I can't confront a white canvas right now.
でそこで僕は自分の本当身長くらいの身長くらいじゃないな、1メートル以上もある 大きな頭部をなんだろう、ヘラとかそういうものを使って作るんじゃなく、もう全部この手でその大きな粘土の塊に対して、まあ格闘するようにとにかくこの手で、大きな頭をね作ることになるんですよ。その1メートル以上の大きな。
And then when I started, I just started with very large clumps of clay, about maybe nearly my height or maybe more, like about 1 meter high, and sculpting these heads. And I didn't use any sculptural tools. I just used my bare hands, and it was like a battle with the large masses of clay as I sculpted it directly with just my hands.
でしかもそのスタジオは僕の個人のスタジオじゃなくて、本当にみんな学生と一緒にする共同スタジオにしてもらいました。でそうすることで、なんか自分がこう初めて美術学校に入学してスタジオに入った時の新鮮な気持ちを取り戻すことができたし、そもそも僕が卒業した大学だったので、本当に鏡を見なければ初めて入学した時の自分みたいになってたんですよ。周りに生徒がいて一緒にこうなんか作業してて。
And this studio I was working with was not a private personal space. I asked for it to be in the shared space with all the students. And it really brought me back to the feeling I had when I first went to art school, that freshness, that energy. And because this was my own alma mater where I had gone, if I didn't look in the mirror, I felt like I was just back as another student when I first started art school.
まあそれで夏にから始まったんですけど、何日いることができるかって聞いたら、半年大丈夫ですって言われたので、じゃあ半年いて作りますっていうことになって、そこでその巨大な頭部の作品を、いくつか作ったんですね。でそれが作り終わった春、ちょうど6ヶ月後、半年後には絵が描けるようになってました。
So I started this residency in the summer, and then I asked them, how long can I stay? And they said, 6 months, not a problem. So I said, okay, I will stay 6 months. And in that half a year, I created several large-scale head sculptures. And then at the end of this time, when it was springtime again, I found that I was able to paint on canvases again.
本当にその学生たちと一緒に自分も学生になったように、一緒に食べ物、食事をみんなで作って食べたり、飲んで美術の話したり、そういう学生生活をもう一回することですごいリハビリをしたと思うんですね。でその中で冷静にその災害のこと、そしてそれからやっぱどうしてもその福島の放射能のこと事故のこといろいろ考えることにできて、その中でやっぱまたいろんな作品が生まれていくことになるんです。その6ヶ月終わった時にはただただその大きな頭と何枚かの絵ができていただけで、まだその災害や放射能事故のこと、原発事故のことを何らかの形で作品に入れ込むっていうことはできてなかったんですけど、でもその6ヶ月が本当自分を回復させてくれる期間になったと思ってます。
And I really had an experience where I felt like a student again. And we would work in the studio together. We would cook and eat food together. We would drink and talk about art late into the night. And this process really rehabilitated me. It was very healing. And after I went through this, then I was able to calmly look at and really think about what happened with the Fukushima disaster and accident and what it meant, and really confront it and digest what happened. And from that, I was able to incorporate that into future works. But in the time I was there, I didn't know that. I just did the several head sculptures, a couple of paintings, and that was it. But later on, it comes that this process helped me get to the point where I could incorporate and understand and digest what happened in Fukushima and the tragedies there. And it really was a process, these 6 months, that helped me recover and healed me.
この展覧会に出品している、白い大きな頭部2個あるんですけど、あれが現在の自分で、が作った一番最新作だと思うんですけど、 あともう1点ブロンズのやっぱり大きな本当に手で作ったタイプのものが1点出てます。でそっちはそれも最近作なんですけど、その当時の2011年の夏に、自分の大学で作ったものに非常によく似ている、手の跡がいっぱいついたものがあるので、その違いをねみんなこう見てくれたら、自分がどういうふうに悩んでどういうふうにそれを克服してその白い、本当、一見簡単に作ったようなフォームにたどり着くか、なんかそれをちょっと見てくれたら嬉しいなとか思うけど。
In this exhibition, we have the large white head sculpture, which I think is my newest work that's in this exhibition. But also included is a large bronze black head sculpture. It's relatively new, but in this terms of style, it's very similar to the pieces I was creating in the summer of 2011. And so what I hope is that people who come to see this show will see the difference between the two, the contrast, and think about what the process was for me to move from one to the other, how I struggled, and the conclusions I came to that led me to the point where I have these white sculptures, which on the surface may look very simple. And that's what I'm hoping people will be able to experience when they come.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that part of your personal journey. Speaking of your sculpture, Miss Forest is a tree-like figure. It looks like a pine tree that has had snowfall on it. How did this character emerge? Does it have a reference to your hometown?
その自分がその2011年に大学のスタジオで作って大きな頭部を作っていく中で、小さい作品も作ってたんですよ。小さいって言っても1メートル以上あるようなものなんだけど、その中の一つで、ミス・フォーレスト的なものが何個かできました。それは頭がやっぱりこうもみの木みたいにとんがってる形をしてて、でもう本当に何も考えないで作ってたので、どういうふうにそれが出てきたのかはなかなか自分でも分かんないんだけど、そういう形のものを何個か作って、でそれから数年後ですね、最終的にその、形の、最終形態っていうか、もうこれ以上のこの形のものはできないだろうっていうのがミス・フォーレストだったと思います。でやっぱもみの木とか、そういうものっていうのは南の国ではないもので、僕の生まれた北の日本では割と普通にある針葉樹で、なんかやっぱ、大きな震災の後に自分のふるさと、それは物理的なふるさとでもあるし心の中のふるさとでもあるけど、そういう時に戻りたい、なんかそういう安心感が得たい、大きな木の下にいたいみたいな、そういう気持ちがあったんだと、思います。
In 2011, when I was creating the large head sculptures at the university, I also worked on some other smaller pieces. I say smaller, but they're still about over 1 meter tall. And there were some pieces that emerged that were sort of Miss Forest-ish looking. And they had sort of pointy, maybe almost fir tree-like pointed heads. But this just came naturally, and it wasn't something I was thinking specifically about. But I kept pursuing this form, and as I pursued it and refined it, the Miss Forest sculpture is the end result. When I got to it arrived at the final form, when I thought I could delve into this no further. And a fir tree, these are not things you see in southern areas, and they're pretty common where I grew up in my hometown, which is northern country. And the northern areas of Japan are both a physical home, but also a psychological, emotional home. And I think there was a longing during this period of tragedy of wanting to go home and feel sheltered under some large trees.
Wow, the comfort of the tree sounds very powerful. Can you talk about this piece here we have behind us? I'm fascinated with it side of a house, the rooftop. It seems that the texture. Can you talk about this piece?
この作品は実は、小さな小屋の壁一面に描いたものをその壁を剥がしたものなんですよ。
This painting, this piece was actually a wall in a small house installation, and we pulled off the wall and preserved it.
Wow.
でこのパッチワークみたいになっている薄い、木の皮みたいなものは、その小屋のっていうか家の屋根の下にまず屋根を瓦だったり、金属だったりするんだけど、その屋根を作る前の下地なんですよね。こう断熱材的な役割を果たす、昔から使われていたもので、今も違う素材に変わったと思うんですけど、それがたくさん余っていたので、それをなんとなく本当になんとなくです、意味があったわけじゃないけど、この壁画の下地に使おうと思ったんだよね。
And these patchwork layers that we see here that looks almost like a patchwork situation. This is actually a material that's used underneath roofing before tiling or metal roofing. It's a material that's used to create insulation. And I think these were used in older houses. They're probably not used anymore, but we had quite a lot of this left over, this material. So I use it instinctually. Instinctively, didn't have a specific explicit meaning, but that's where this material comes from.
The texture is fantastic. When I look at the image, I can't help but be deeply impressed with your mastery of conveying human emotion. And I'm very curious how you're able to convey such profound human sentiment.
よく分かんないけど、本当に分かんないけど、本当に伝えてるのか、それは多分感性が豊かな人には伝わってると思うけど、なんかやっぱ伝わんない人は絶対伝わんないとかも思う時あるよ。
I don't really know. I really don't know if it does communicate to people. I think if the viewer is someone who has a rich sensibility and sensitivity, then there's something that gets communicated and conveyed to them. But if you're not that kind of person, I think there's nothing that reaches them.
そう、それは音楽でも文学でも映画でも全部そうだと思うんだけど、やっぱ自分と似たような感情を持っている人、僕の感情を理解できる人に伝わってるんだと自分は信じていたいと思ってるけど。
I think it's similar with music and literature and film as well, but if it's somebody who has a sensibility that's close to me, someone who understands me as a person, then I'm able to connect with them and communicate with them.
僕が例えばこの絵描いてる時でも、怒った女の子の絵描いてる時でもそうなんだけど、多分鏡見てないけど同じ顔してると思うね。こう悲しい顔したり、涙ためるようにしてたり、あるいはもうすごい怒りで、頭にきてる感じで書き殴ってたり、だからある意味自分の自画像だと思うんだけどね。
When I'm painting this kind of painting or the angry girls or anything, I never check in a mirror, but I'm pretty certain that I have the same expression on my face, whether it's of anger or tearfulness or just that strong emotion. And it's really part of how I paint, that if it's an angry girl, then I'm really painting angrily, roughly almost on the surface. And so in that sense, it's really reflecting my personal emotional state. So in a way, you could say that they're self-portraits.
Well, it seems to me from observing your work that there is an intention to reach a broad audience. Your visual language is something that almost anyone can relate to. but also at the same time, very personal. I don't think there's an easy answer, but it's beguiling to see this work and how personal it is, but then at the same time, how everyone can relate to it.
まあ誰でもね理解できるとは思ってなくてやっぱこう、それを理解できる感情豊かな人がいっぱいいるんだなと自分は思ってるけど、まあとにかく自分は自分に対してあるいは自分の身近な人たちに対してすごく伝えたいという気持ちはものすごくあるんだけど、やっぱ一般の人全てとかそういう大きな形で、人々に伝えたい分かってほしいっていうのは実はないんですよ。ただ身内の人に本当に真に伝えたいっていう気持ちがそういう、表現になってるのかな。そういう表現っていうか結局はみんなが感じれる、簡単に感じれるものにこう還元されてるのかなとか、今ちょっとなんとなく思ったけど。
I really don't know if it is something that truly does reach everybody, a broad audience, and is understood by lots of people. But I do think, there are a lot of people out there with very rich sensibilities who can connect and relate to it. But to be honest, when I'm creating these works, I have a very strong sense of wanting to convey something to myself, to people who are very important to me and very dear to me, and to really create a true connection there. But I frankly don't have a strong intention or trying to reach a broad audience or a general public. And but I think in my efforts to make a true and honest connection with people I'm very close to, I think that perhaps that gets converted into something that everybody can relate to and connect to. Is something I'm realizing now as we talk about it.
Yeah. It's amazing what you're able to do. You do it very, very well. I wanted to ask you, there's two pieces in the show, Stop the Bombs and No War, that sends a message of, a clear message of pacifism and an end to nuclear weapons. This is something that has appeared repeatedly through your work. Can you talk about your commitment to these causes?
Okay. まあ僕は1959年生まれなんですけど、ちょうど自分がその生まれて、中学校ですね、15歳になるくらいまで、戦争っていうのが、特に有名なのはベトナム戦争です。それが起こっていて、でテレビのニュースでその映像っていうのがいつも流れてました。
I was born in 1959, and up until the time I was born, until I was about 15 or so in middle school, there was a lot of war in the world, in particular Vietnam War, and we would see the footage from this war on our TVs at home.
それでその10代前半に、音楽っていう自分のずっと仲良くなる、趣味っていうよりもっと生き方に直結したものに出会うことになるんだけど、その当時の音楽っていうのがそのベトナム戦争に反対する、公民権運動から発達したフォークソング、プロテストソングだったり、それからもっとさらに大きな音や大きな力で反戦を訴えるロックですね。なんかそういうものにこうどんどん出会っていって、その中でそのミュージシャンたちの主張と同じように多分自分も、そうミュージシャンやあるいはそれにこう影響を受けた学生運動の人たち、平和運動の人たちと同じように自分もその環境の中にいたんだと思います。日常の中で。
And in my early teens, when I started a lifelong relationship with music, which I don't know if I can call a hobby, it's more a way of life. The music of the time was strongly connected to democracy movements, civil rights movements, and the folk songs that evolved into protest songs, and then later on evolved into rock music, which used bigger sounds and bigger power to also protest war and violence. And I think in my daily life, I was strongly influenced by the same environment that gave birth to this kind of music, as well as the student activism of that era.
ほとんど、大学生や、高校生でもいたんですけど、そういう一市民というかすごい小さな存在である、その国の中では小さな存在である人たちがみんなでこのデモしたり反戦のデモしたり、そういうものっていうのを、子どもの頃から間近に見てて、なんだろうな、すごい名のある人が何か行動を起こすんではなく、無名の人たちが集まることで一つの行動が起きていく、そういうものっていうのがすごい本当に身近にあって、自分を形作ってきた、そういう特に反戦や、人権運動とか、なんだろう、弱いものの側に回るみたいな、そういう自分をね作ってきた気がします。というか確実にそうだと思います。
And when looking at university and even high school students of that era, I was really struck by the power of a single person who by themselves really has no standing. They're just a small person existing, how they could stand up to fight the power and protest what they felt was an injustice. And even as a young child, I saw this and was very affected by it. And it wasn't about seeing people who are famous or who have some kind of privilege who are trying to affect change, but seeing a bunch of people who might seem really powerless coming together and forming a force for good. And they were protesting for civil rights, anti-war movement. And this felt very close to me. It was very formative to me as a child. And seeing especially the populations that are vulnerable and the underdogs being championed and being protected, that was something that really definitely formed and shaped who I was.
それと同時に自分の意思で、戦場に行くというよりも、やっぱなんか大きな力の下で戦場に行かざるを得ないたくさんのその無名の兵隊たちのことも考えたりしてましたね。
And at the same time, I really thought a lot about the soldiers who are not signing up to fight because of their own will, but drafted against their own personal beliefs and their will. And that's something that I thought very strongly about.
なんか当時は本当に素晴らしい音楽だけではなく、戦争が終わった後もたくさんの、素晴らしい映画、アメリカでベトナム戦争に関する映画が生まれたと思うんですけど、なんかその映画もいろんな映画があったんですけど、今も、なんか時々見たりしていますね。
I think during that era, there was a lot of amazing music that was born of that era, and also after the war, and also movies, American movies that were from this era that were quite incredible, and even now I rewatch them.
Thank you. We often see text in your work, mainly German, English, Japanese, and I'm very curious about the use of text in your work. For example, in a work such as Life is Hard, Let's Move On.
大体絵を描くときは音楽が後ろで流れてるんですよ。
Usually, almost always when I'm working, there's music on in the background.
で、なんか調子がいいと耳から歌詞が入ってきた、その歌詞がそのまんま自分の耳から脳に行かないでそのまま手に来て、手で歌詞を殴り書くことがあって、その時に 時々本当にイメージがいいイメージが生まれる時があって、そういうものがそういう作品になってると思います。だからなんか耳から聞こえた歌詞だったりすることが多いですね。
And when things are going really well and flowing, sometimes the lyric goes straight in through my ear, bypasses my brain, and goes straight to my hand and gets thrown on this canvas. And that's a lot of times when a really good image is formed through this process. It just comes straight through.
Wonderful.
キャンバスっていうよりはドローイングとかそういう
Not canvases, excuse me, more drawings.
There are two works in the exhibition that stand out. You spoke about the large black female head and its role it plays in creating a lineage between the sculptures. But there's also the painting, Through the Break in the Rain. Which is more formal compared to everything else. What role does that piece play in the show?
基本的にこの展覧会は今までまとめて見せたことがなかったそういう板に描いたり、カードボード身近なものにこう割と自然に何も考えずに楽しむように描いたもので構成する、展覧会にしようと思って、そういう展示構成を考えてたんですけど、でもちょっとそれだけだと本当の自分っていうのが分かりづらいかなと思って、サービスですね。サービスで、すごい、ペインタリーな絵画と、それからさっき言った手の跡がつくような大きなブロンズ、黒っぽいブロンズの彫刻を出すことにしました。
In coming up with this exhibition design, I knew that it was going to be primarily these materials that are close to me, like panels, cardboard, and these are works that were created pretty naturally. I felt very free and enjoyed creating them without overthinking them. But I thought if I created an entire exhibition with just these works, it may be a little hard for people to understand, maybe, and so I wanted to. It's sort of an extra service to include one painting that is very painterly, and then the large bronze sculpture where it's very has very strong handprints, and to include that in the exhibition.
Very thoughtful. Thank you. I have to say that as a curator, I'm very impressed with your ability to place a show. You hang a show beautifully. And I was also, it seems like there's a generosity in the way you hang a show. I was particularly impressed with the placement of the puppy. Because it is simultaneously the beginning and the end of the exhibition. Can you talk about placing it there? Because it's very playful and I love it.
そうだな。自分はほとんどっていうかいつもその会場に来てその会場のスペースの中に自分がいてでそこで展示構成を最終的にしていくんですよ。頭の中でもちろん考えるけど実際に最終的に決定するのはその会場でかけながらでその時にいろんな変更もあるし今回も大きな変更が何個かあって、でもなんかその時そこに自分がいることで生まれる空間っていうのかなそれが多分人々にもこう見やすいふうにつながってるんじゃないのかなとか思うんだけどね。
I always go to the space where the exhibitions are held and do the actual exhibition design there. I, of course, plan out things ahead of time in my head, but when I get there, there's often a lot of changes, and there's something that's gained only by being personally in this space. And I think since I create in this process, I think that's how I'm able to create a space that connects with the viewer because I do it in situ.
であと、自分は自分の作品をすごく信頼しているのでなんかこっちになんか1インチずれるとかこっちにずれるとか上下とかあんまりその細かい ズレにはこだわらないんですよ。なんか作品っていうのはやっぱその細かいズレをなんか気にしないくらいこう強くなければいけないと思ってるので、まあなんかそういうふうに考えるとすごい遊ぶっていうのもちょっと適当すぎるけど、まあなんか真剣にリラックスして、なんか空間と本当試合してる感じですね、スポーツ選手でいうと。なんか本当にもうちっちゃい作品でこうジャブを出してどこでこうストレート出してとか、なんかすごい楽しんで自分は、やってます。でそれはスポーツ選手と同じで、普段すごい基本的なトレーニングをしているからその場でもう考えなくても体が動く感じで、これこここれそことかこれちょっとこっちずらそうとか、そういうふうにやってるって今気がつきました。
I have a lot of faith in my works. I really trust them. And so I'm not fussed about whether it moves over to the left 1 inch, to the right, up, down, inch here, there. These are things that I'm really not preoccupied with. I think that works need to be powerful enough that it doesn't affect them if they're moved over slightly in any direction. And because of that, I'm able to take, I want to say playful, but that sounds like I'm not taking it seriously. It's very serious, but also relaxed attitude towards creating an exhibition. To use a sports metaphor, it's like almost a match against teams that the works are doing. Imagine this small piece here, it's throwing a jab or a little straight that, this way, and how does it relate to the other pieces in this way? And to expand on that metaphor, it's like professional athletes. Because they're training all the time, when they actually get into the space, their body just moves instinctually. And that's how I feel about the exhibition, that when I get there, things just come out naturally and formed. And this is something I've just realized just now.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you. どうもありがとう。
どういたしまして。
This has been a wonderful experience, and we could not be more pleased. And again, I'm very grateful for you doing this, particularly in such a complicated time globally. This exhibition will mean a lot to the people of Dallas, so we're grateful.
Okay.
Okay.
Muchas gracias.
De nada.